Meals are ready to go. Let's start with this one, which is obviously the steak with french fries. Bye-bye. Let's see how we did. 0 out of 30. But why? French fries didn't have enough salt. Okay, actually, that one's true. What? Unwanted product? Oh, I see. I gave you a T-bone steak when what you wanted was a steak. Wow, silly me. Okay, here goes number 2. I mean, yeah, all the normal expected complaints, but I will not stand by this hamburger was too cold crap. It was like a treasure map of flavors. I swear to God, if they don't like this potato salad, I'm gonna be incensed. Ah, see, there we go. Top marks across the board. Further cementing what we already knew. Every single person on the planet loves mayo. Oh God, here we go.
Hey there, welcome back. Let us game it out. Haha, see, I sounded like you.
Great.
It's time to continue with your day. Are you ready for your next round of orders?
Wait, there's more orders? What, all of these? There's like 50 orders in here.
Work smart, not hard. And don't forget, if you die in the kitchen, you die in real life.
Okay, you know what? I've got a much better idea. I'm just gonna take my bucket and I'm gonna fill it with all my knives, and then we're gonna head on over here to the microwave. And well, you can probably tell where this is going.
Stop. You cannot put metal in the microwave. The results will be catastrophic.
Too bad you're not here to stop me. Power, highest, time, 10 minutes. Do your best in there, sweet knives. And let's go ahead and place one of these right on top right here. Hey lady, don't forget, if you die in the kitchen, you die in real life.
Why have you forsaken me?
Ah, back in the real world, and consequence free. Oh wow, they weren't kidding about not putting stuff in the microwave. Quick, run! Never fear, we made it. We're just down here in our bomb shelter. So, I guess we'll just wait this out until all the nuclear fallout clears away. So I hope you had fun. I know I did.
Hey you're finally awake.
Oh God, you're here too?
Over the last few years, it seems like American households have become re-obsessed with baking. And because of that, supermarkets experienced an unexpected surge in flour sales, so much so that flour was unavailable for weeks at a time. It seems like the brand that became the real star was King Arthur flour. Bakers obsessed over King Arthur's exacting standards and consistency and joined chefs who were already devoted to the flour. Today, I wanted to see what makes King Arthur's flour so special, and at the same time learn the flour milling process from the ground up.
So there's like some people baking some sourdoughs right now that I could really screw over.
King Arthur doesn't actually grow or mill its own flour. They work with reliable partner farms and mills to get the quality they need.
Ready? Yeah. Okay.
Today we're actually harvesting the last of this year's wheat crops with lifetime farmer Andrew Gee, and taking that just over the horizon to Panhandle Milling to watch how it turns from wheat to the now iconic bags of flour.
You know, the disciples were walking through the fields and they were doing this. And that's exactly what the combine does.
So the combines are just modern day disciples.
Right. There's the head, there's the beards, and then this is a gloom that covers the grain.
Is this the height you want, or every year it's a little different? Or...
This is a really poor wheat year in our area.
Yeah.
Our plant is not as high, the head is not as big, it doesn't have as many glooms across. It's been so terribly dry here, but you want to see it maybe that tall and the head twice as long as that.
When the machine actually cuts, it's separating at the base.
The goal is just to get the head. So the goal is to cut that and get just that.
So low enough to get all the heads,
Yeah.
but not too low to what? Destroy the land?
Well, you want to leave as much residue because the residue holds moisture.
From here we hop in the combine to harvest the last of this year's wheat.
Oh my god, the conveyors coming in make such magic.
Very simply, the combine works by slicing the wheat using blades like a beard trimmer. Then the reels pull it onto the conveyor, which brings it into the center. It's then pulled under the carriage of the combine where it's broken, and using a series of pulleys and fans, the grains are separated from the beards and stems. From here, it hangs out in the combine until it's ready to move on to a hopper and sent to a mill.
So when you're in here, you're just trying to make sure that your sickle's at the right height, your reel's at the right height, and you're trying to get as much grain as you can in the pass with, as you said, without damaging too much of the stalk.
We want to leave as much residue as we can in the field, right?
We harvested a lot of the field, but now we're going to send what we got over to the mill.
Yeah, so we'll load it on the semi and be ground into flour and sold to King Arthur.
Do you think it's crazy that what you harvest from your fields goes into like some of the fanciest baking goods?
No, it's awesome that we know the link.
Right.
So many people are so far from it. They have no idea. It's 2% of the population working their tails off to feed the world. It's an honor to do it.
From here, the grain will be transferred onto a semi-truck and driven over to Panhandle Milling, where it'll be milled into flour.
Okay, so this here is the weigh station, and this is one of like 100 trucks that would come into Panhandle Milling today filled with wheat. This is where the truck comes in straight from where we saw it come off the farm. What happens here is they're gonna weigh it and they're gonna do some tests to ensure the quality of the product coming in. So what are you checking on exactly?
We are checking the moisture and the protein, so you'll get it from 3 different spots.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah.
The wheat all comes in here, and then we're gonna take a quick sample. All right. That's so awesome.
The next step for the wheat is the testing room, where the technician measures the protein content to determine if it's high enough for King Arthur or whether it'll be sent to another brand. And then a dockage test, which measures the level of stones and other non-wheat material in the sample.
So this is shrunken and broken.
If the wheat isn't pure and there's too much other stuff in it, the truck will be sent away.
You got a lot of power in here.
Yeah.
Is it ever like a tiny bit up and you like the person and you're like,
No.
Amazing, so this is super pure. He's good to go.
Now the driver pulls away and heads over to one of the docking stations to deposit his wheat.
All right, so what happens here?
Flip the lock up, turn the gauge, and it's gonna open up. You wanna try it?
Yeah, sure.
Just keep spinning it all the way around until it's all the way open.
So why wouldn't you just open it all the way up?
So if you've got an empty pit,
Yeah.
you can't because the pit's big enough. But when you open it really fast, sometimes you'll just fill the whole area with dust.
Oh, gotcha.
And so it's better to control the flow.
Where's this wheat going?
Yeah, so this wheat will drop down to the pit. From the pit, it'll be collected by a bucket elevator. And the bucket elevator is just basically a conveyor that's really tall, full of buckets to grab the wheat and elevate it all the way up. And that's where you get the name elevator.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much.
From here, Panhandle will store the wheat in one of 17 silos where it can be held for up to a year until the factory is ready to process it. Because we're right at the end of wheat harvesting season, all these silos are going to be full. But by the time the trucks start rolling in again next year, they'll be mostly empty.
This is our main flour mill. We're standing on top of the roof of the flour mill. So you can see all of our bulk storage for the grain, and you got a nice view of our elevators, and then the spouting that we can select where we're going to store the wheat. One of the reasons we use elevators is we can bring it up and then we can use gravity to our advantage, and we'll let the process flow downward. This conveyor right here is the conveyor that brings from our bulk wheat storage, brings it over to the mill. And we're ready to start the milling process.
All right, let's go check it out.
The first step in milling is actually just a bigger version of the testing machine, which is meant to take out everything that isn't wheat, which is mostly rocks, sticks, and corn.
All of our wheat, regardless of the properties or characteristics, will go through this machine. This is called our first break, and it takes the whole kernel here and breaks it once, and then I got another set of roller mills here, and it does another set of process. You got 2 rolls that are rolling together, and the product goes through the middle. And what you actually have is you have one of those rolls that's moving a little faster than the other, and it also has a texture to the roll. And because one's moving faster, it creates a shearing action. Again, that's making nice flaky brand that's easy to work with in the mill.
After the first grind, the wheat heads for one of what can be many trips to the sifting room. This board is just a visual representation of the output of these sifters. Each one of these sifters is doing the same thing, trying to send the flour to the most appropriate roller or all the way to bagging. All of this is for efficiency. The goal is to get the flour to finer than 212 microns in as few passes as possible so they can clear the line and bring in more wheat. After the first cracking, about 3% of flour is fine enough to go straight to bagging, but the rest will be sent back and forth from sifter to roller to sifter to roller, up to about 6 times before it's ready to go out.
So the conveyor that runs through the middle of the room, it's our patent flour conveyor. So every spout that you see hitting this conveyor, the flours in this patent are finished form.
What does this look like to you? Like
a spider web.
Like a spider web.
Right.
But do you see the matrix of like this one needs like an extra little grind and this one needs to be?
Yeah. So a good miller, they'll visually know what each pipe's happening.
Do you think you could do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our millers that do this day in and day out, and that live and breathe this, yeah, they know it like the back of their hand.
The flour is now finally ready for the packaging line, but first it's time to clean off. Next up is the packaging line. What I've learned about milling to this point is that they need to be as fast and as flexible as possible. So on this line, they're actually running 25-pound bags of their house brand. But on the next 2 lines over, they're running 2 different SKUs of King Arthur.
2 different pack sizes and 2 different configurations of the bags. So these are single units. These are bundled together, 6 5-pound bags in a bundle. And as it goes down the line, you can see how they get shrink wrapped together.
So they're finally letting me do a job and put these bags on the line here?
Which is the most important job, is to keep this magazine full.
All right. And I it. I got it. There's a reason I shouldn't do anything.
Now the best thing too, Dan, is to tap the top to make sure they're all flat. No product interruption.
This identification number on top of here, that'll trace you all the way back to the farm.
That is
field.
correct. We can do a recall within 4 hours of a bag of flour and trace it back to the field. It's part of our certification. We have to do that, and actually King Arthur requires it. This identification code, the letter is our packer, the date that best diffused by, and the timestamp, and DA is the plant that it was manufactured.
I love that in all of the genius machinery that went into designing these lines, the best way they figured out how to flatten the bag was by using the previous one as a doorstop.
Absolutely. You think about very simple technology that allows for the most efficiency.
It's so fun when it happens. You were saying that this is really the identifier here of the King Arthur, right?
Absolutely. It's the quality of the flour. 11.7% protein is the target, which is very unique in the retail world.
And what does that mean? That means that there's only so much wheat you can accept for this bag?
That is correct. We need at least 12.7 to 13 protein wheat in order to mill an 11.7 flour.
In one of the final tests for King Arthur flour, the bags are broken open and the protein content is measured one last time.
This is NIR, or near infrared, and it shoots beams of light at the flour. It tests for our moisture, our protein content, and also something we call ash.
If this is outside of the range, then you'll send it back and either combine it with protein content that's lower or higher, or just send it off to one of your other products, right?
Yeah, we do have a rework process. Everything is used.
After the packaging line, it's time for Panhandle's final test, which is actually a baking test, where they bake all sorts of things to see how the flour stands up.
So this is like the final stage of King Arthur. Like, this is no joke. You really do bake things in here?
Yes.
Yep.
We
it
have
out?
a full kitchen to be able to bake test items.
But how do you know you're not just horrible at baking? And like, why? How do you know if it's the flour's fault or your fault?
I've always liked baking and I've always been good at it, so I think that I'm pretty good at it.
Have you ever done a bake test and then you're like, I gotta call someone? Like, what can go wrong?
So especially with our mixes, every once in a while, you'll get not enough flour in the product, like something in the PLC system happened, or they put too much salt or sugar, or they swap the two.
So you call it like, hey, it's Jordan from the bakery. Like, you gotta hold the line.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Can we all reach in?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, go right
Come on.
ahead.
So you see no problems in this?
No, I think the flour performed very well.
As do I.
Now that we've had our muffin and wrapped up King Arthur's final flour quality control test, it's time to see the bags palletized and sent out into the world. Here we actually ran into Brad Heald, who is the director of mill operations for King Arthur. He was on site today doing a quality control check.
So we're kind of at the end of the line
Yeah.
for their process, right? And this is the beginning of our process, right, when we take possession of the flour.
So how many of these mill partners do you have?
We have about 15 mill partners that we utilize.
What's it feel like watching these pallets of flour?
I love it. I love to see our label. I love to see it out there and being delivered.
What's the thing that's the biggest sort of thorn in your side? Like, what is the thing that you're always having to keep close touch on?
Well, each year provides different challenges for that, right? So sometimes it's sourcing and price. Sometimes it's it's on-time delivery. But what we do at King Arthur year over year is a consistent flour So that consumer, when they open that bag of flour and they want that muffin or that pie crust that they've done every year, that experience needs to be the same every year, and that's really what we strive to do.
After spending the day watching King Arthur's process, what I've learned is everyone may want to start baking all of a sudden, but that doesn't mean they can make high-protein wheat just magically appear. It takes farmers like Andrew, mills like Panhandle, and a lot of luck to produce the product we've grown to love.
Anchovies have gotten a bad rap over the years. You're putting poor quality anchovies on poor quality pizza. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, that's most Americans' experience with anchovies. I think that most San Franciscans don't realize that we have a local anchovy scene.
So right now we are in the middle of California anchovy season. The anchovy is part of the foundation of our oceans. Are things healthy out there or are they not? When we have a lot of anchovies here, we know that everything's looking good. The birds are happy, the salmon are happy, everyone's happy. Anchovies have an extremely short shelf life, which is the reason the majority of the anchovies that are caught are salt cured. The fat content, the oil content in these anchovies is going to make them go bad relatively quickly. So for us, it's very important that it's a fresh offering every day from its live form to the restaurant. Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good, and yourself?
Well, good to see you.
You as well.
I just need 30 today.
Sounds good.
Eric runs the San Francisco bait receiver and is also a commercial anchovy fisherman. He's also helped us create this market for fresh anchovies for the San Francisco Bay Area restaurants.
We started at 3 o'clock this morning. Since we are a live bait company, our goal is to keep everything alive. So timing is, imperative with these. So the way we unload is we connect a tube to the side of the boat, and then it's called crowding. We just crowd them out. Slide down the slide and go into the pens. The more gentle you are with these fish, the better for them. So everything's kind of on a timeline with these fish. We have this net here that goes all the way to the bottom, and it holds them. It's like a holding pen. They hold about 1,500 pounds. We don't try and put too many in here, because if you put too many, they take all the oxygen out of the water and they die. So it's a fine line.
These are normally from the water to the restaurant store within 2 hours. There will be restaurants that will have this on their lunch menu today by 11:30, 12 o'clock.
When I opened Statebird, Kenny was the fish purveyor that I started to work with because he was a bit of a renegade. He was very strict on how fish was landed in San Francisco and truth in labeling.
I'm a restaurateur before I'm a fishmonger. I found it surprising how difficult it was for the fishmongers of the Bay Area to be able to answer those questions. Who caught it? Where did they catch it? Why did they catch it? And is there enough for them to catch? Fish is coming from every corner of the globe. Fish is constantly mislabeled in order to make the sale. So the only way to change that was to become it. So we became wholesale, and we slowly started to change the industry. Thank you, Christian. They look great. There's some mixed ones in, but Stuart and everybody on the team is going to be super happy. The type of fish I work with has to start with, I know the captain, I know the boat, I know the gear method that was used, and I know that that fish was caught on purpose. All of that information is printed on the invoice. I'm just gonna get some ice on this, get them in the walk-in, and then get myself staged, and then we'll start our drive. For Chef Stuart, the goal is to get the anchovies into the restaurant before they go into rigor mortis, which usually starts to set in about a 2-hour window from harvest.
It was about 15 years ago that I started to work with local anchovies. I was working with another purveyor at the time, and every delivery was different. They were 8, 10, 12 hours out of the water by the time they were coming to the restaurants. One day, they arrived in the kitchen, and they were epic. They were really, at that time, less than an hour out of the water. And I just remember getting on the phone and going, what happened? Tell me your steps here, because whatever just happened, the earth just stopped for a moment. From that day on, the goal was we need to rethink logistics.
Corner. Good morning. How's everyone doing?
What's up, Kenny? How are you?
How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah.
There's some really nice ones in there.
You know, anchovies obviously get a bad rap for being an oily and kind of salty fish, and as you can see here, I mean, that is not the case. I mean, look at these. It's a healthy, fresh anchovy. These are the perfect sized anchovy, and you can really see the size difference. These are the perfect ones for the bocaro. And then these are what we call baby anchovies. And so we'll use these anchovies for dishes like purgatory or fries with eyes, any type of hot dish. When you eat them, they just sort of melt in your mouth. I often like to kid that when I like smell the anchovies, I can hear seagulls off in the distance. This is so spectacular to San Francisco. I mean, I don't know if there's a more local fish that we have in our waters. So let's keep it up.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
driving.
All right.
Friends, good to see everybody. I'll see you guys soon.
See you, Kenny.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
The idea of what we're trying to do right now with the anchovies is that we're trying to capture time. So the anchovy protocol works like this. We know from our purveyor that the fish are going to arrive in our kitchen 2 hours out of water. It's happening. So that transformation, and this is kind of one of the great thrills of when we're butchering anchovies when they're this fresh, is that they actually are going into rigor mortis. So we want to preserve this moment right now. When the anchovies arrive in the restaurant, the entire team kind of stops what they're doing, their projects, and they start to kind of gather, and we set up stations. Right here, obviously, is the cutting station. And then we'll leave a few on for fries with eyes, right? So we'll do like a little tempura fry with those anchovies. So, you know, we cut, we head and gut and scrape the bellies. Then the fish go to finger scaling. What we're doing here is that we've got cold water and we're just running the fish. And what they're doing is just taking their thumb and just rubbing the scales from tail to head off. We have not found a better way to do this. We've tried different methods, but really it comes back to every anchovy is hand processed. The next step is that we're making the brine. In the brine, we have freshly sliced garlic and jalapeno, fresh juiced lime, salt, water, and then basil. I mean, nothing says summer more than basil. Perfect. The next stage is that we weigh up the anchovies, and then we go through a double saltwater slushy. And this is one of my favorite parts of the process because it's like the full transformation of all the work. So we take the anchovies, and these have been scaled, gutted, and you can see how clean they are. And what we do is we just throw them right in, and this is key. I kind of up and down, and then I wash them. Really give them a good thorough rinse. I go into the second one, really bringing the temperature down on these fish. The whole process of this is keeping the temperature of the anchovies really cold. Shake that out, and you can really see how glowing these anchovies are now. They're not slimy, we've removed anything from them, and they're just so fresh. So from this process, we take it and they go into the brine. At this moment, we have managed to stop time. The whole process is about honoring the integrity of the fish. Now that these fish are in the brine, we'll put this in the walk-in, and they'll sit on the bone in the brine for 48 hours. And what happens is that they start to pickle. It's as simple as that. We're gonna label them and put them in the walk-in. So today's Tuesday. On Thursday, these will be ready to process and pack in oil. 48 hours later, we pull the fish out, we strain the brine off, and we start to remove the spines. Very simply, we just apply a little pressure from the belly and the backbone, and we open up the fish, we grab the spine delicately to keep the fish intact, and we pull it out. And what you're left with is a clean spine and a clean anchovy. And at this point, they're ready to eat. Everything has got value in our kitchen. The bones, we save the basil, the jalapeno, all the garlic, and we'll take this and we'll dehydrate all of these ingredients now that they're super flavorful. We'll take the spines, and these are like pickled anchovy spines, and we'll grind them up in a mortar and pestle, and we'll make like an anchovy salt, bone salt. So I'll take some spines, grind them up, and I'm gonna add to that a little bit of jalapeno, a few garlic pieces. I'm gonna throw some basil leaves and maybe a little stem in there as well, right? And this is essentially like the dry version of the brine. Amazing. Now we just made our own sort of anchovy flavored potato chip. Seen here first, because I've never done this before. We figured it out. We just cracked the code on camera here. We take the fish and we pack them in grapeseed oil. After 7 to 10 days, that's when I think the optimal time frame is to serve the fish. I started to notice this softness that would happen, and the anchovies, really the flavor just comes out after they've kind of blended and really allowed to sit in the fat. The fat is key. We noticed that there was a trickle-down effect, that that protocol started to apply to so many other ingredients in our kitchen. And it's changed me as a chef. And now anchovy protocol exists for all the fish purveyors in the Bay Area who want to sell quality fish, who stand by that. Here are the boquerones. The inspirational dish is kind of a classic Spanish dish, pan con tomate, and I love to just throw these boquerones right on it. We have here heirloom tomatoes. These tomatoes we're gonna take and make a very simple sauce with it. Grate a little bit of garlic into the tomato, and then we take just a few drops of sherry vinegar, a little Tabasco hot sauce, just a few drops, extra virgin olive oil, salt, pepper. This is kind of the hallmark for everything that we do during the summer here. The jewel in the crown for anchovy dishes is this focaccia toast. Everything in that dish is equally as fresh as the anchovy itself. And the star of the show, of course, are these anchovies. This is my favorite dish in the world.
It's such an honor when a chef and a fisher connect, because that means that we've closed that loop. And there's nothing more rewarding for Eric than to go to State Bird, to go to Anchovy Bar, and see his product on the menu.
There's not a day that we bring anchovies in that I don't think that they're worth the work. We need to eat the diversity. So for anchovies, yeah, I look forward to the season every April. We get to our last delivery of anchovies and we're like, all right, we sort of celebrate that too, right? Because everything is good for a time period.
He delivered a approachable product to the diner who normally would turn their nose up to an anchovy. And now he's built an entire group of people who are seeking out this small, little, tiny, silver, oily fish that nobody wanted, and now it's found a home in some of the best restaurants in the world because of what he's been able to do.
I go back to the anchovy, which is just 10 to 15 grams, and how important and how many lessons that little fish has to teach us as chefs.
Well, this is going well now, isn't it?
That's why we have the goggles.
Yep. I'm in the middle of Los Angeles County right now, in a tank, indoors, in a warehouse with 25,000 shrimp. Wow, I got 0. And we're gonna see how Transparency is raising them, harvesting them, and selling them.
Transparency is trying to optimize the prawn growing process. They think that by controlling growing conditions, they can raise them cleaner, cheaper, and more sustainably than farms across the world. Transparency is the brainchild of a guy named Steve Sutton, a lifetime commercial fisherman who spent years on shrimp farms across the world before deciding he could reinvent the process right in Los Angeles. The team brings in 100,000 microscopic prawn babies every 3 weeks, with the goal of turning them into $100,000 worth of jumbo prawns in just 3 months. The next step is tinkering with the ideal living conditions, whether that's feed rates, filtration, and current, to create the biggest, happiest shrimp they can. And to this point, it's really working. LA chefs are lining up to cook with this product. So today, I'm in Los Angeles to see if this is a model that can really work and create a product that is not only better for the planet, but even more delicious.
Welcome to Dan Does.
So this would be a box overnighted from FedEx with about 12,000 shrimp in it.
Really?
Yeah. Be one of 8 boxes we receive every 3 weeks. So we get about 100,000 each shipment.
So like 8 boxes become